Oh, man, they racing in here, man. They getting in here. Hello, I'd like to welcome everyone to HBCU Coaches Corner, where I'm your host, Rocky Miller, along with my co-host, the Rattler, the winner of his first Division I game this season, none other than Mr. Stephen Campbell. And the man you all came to see, the SWAC championship coach, the SWAC Coach of the Year, the SIAC Coach of the Year, the man who in the only offensive coordinator to ever coordinate a HBCU championship team that won a PWI conference. None other than my man, Johnnie Cole.
Man, when I think about this day and knowing what happened to the Southern coach, I've been there, and some people got to understand in our business, in this business of coaching football, I've been on both sides of the tables. It's some to get hired and some to get fired. So, it's not a very good day. I hate to see any coach, especially one of our fellow HBCU coaches, get the hatch, but that's part of the business. And you just got to move on and keep your eyes open and hopefully maybe he could jump on some other staff or maybe get another job. So kind of want to open that up because that's been the big news in HBCU sports. And, one of the reasons why I opened up this show was to expose coaches to the greatness that they have. But I just want our viewers to know, man, it ain't that nobody is a bad person. It ain't personal. It was just a decision that people made. Ain't nothing that he did or done or wasn't doing. It was about football. It's about football. So I just wanted to make sure because a lot of times you guys, coaches get fired and everybody, they want to go in the corner and he was riding fast down the street. He was messing with this person. Hey man, that's the personal side. Then there's a football side. And fortunately, in football, in college sports, pro sports, there's always somebody getting hired and there's always somebody getting fired. So I wish Terrence good luck, him and his family. He's a good guy and he's well known around the HBCU space.
Coach, this has been a interesting season thus far, and I actually find Coach Graves' tenure as Southern head coach quite interesting. He won the West Championship last year,
right?
The West Division championship, West Division title. And this year he came in and struggled early, and I think they're 1-6 now. Is that correct, Campbell?
Yeah, and I'm gonna let you go, but I want to piggyback on that. So
they're 1-6.
1-6.
And this is the kind of my frustration as just a man is it had really nothing to do with Terrence Graves. I don't know Terrence Graves. He's not a personal friend or anything like this. But had Terrence, this is what I mean, had he struggled out the gate and then come back his second season and win the West, he may still have a job, Coach. But because he did so well his first year, there were expectations where they were ranked the number 2 ranked team in HBCU football, where they were in the top 5 coming into this season. Do you think Terrence Graves was ultimately a victim of his own success in that coming out the gate, he wins the West title, and then he follows that up with a disappointing season?
No, I mean, one thing you got to look behind the way he was hired. why he was hired and the way he was hired. It was a money thing. You know, we got to get somebody in there because you don't usually get rid of coach and then hire one of the assistants on. You don't get rid of coach for a bad record. You know, after Dooley didn't do well, and then you hire one of the assistants on the staff. So you know that's one thing in question. Number two, you know, what about Southern? Is Southern is a place to pick coaches that you got that want to that's learning how to be a head coach? You know what I mean? Is Southern a blue bread program that they want to go get a championship coach instead of a coach that's going to learn on the job, learning to be a head coach on the job, and that's what they chose. And it's almost like, man, I'm afraid to say, and it's funny. Hell, if you win the West, you out of a job the next year if you don't win the West again. I mean, that happened now to Terrence. That happened to Bubba. That happened basically to Dooley.
Yeah, it happened to Dooley, yes.
Happened to Dooley. Happened to me. I won a championship and out of a job the next year. I mean, behooves me that I don't know. Is this a trend? Is it? I don't know. That's a good question. But I think when you put in those situations, man, you know, you got to try to please everybody. I don't think it's Southern. They can't afford to go 1-6. I think it's the worst record since 1971 in the 70s, Bishop.
That's correct.
And Southern is you know, they struggling financially as well. You know what I mean? So those games mean a whole bunch, you know, because when people stop coming, you stop making money. And so, you know, that has some things to do with it as well.
Let me ask you this, Coach, and I'll let you go after this, Campbell. You bring up something very interesting, Coach. Dooley won in his first year at Southern, fired his second year. Bubba won in his first year at Prairie View, fired his second year. Terrence won in his first year at Southern, fired his second year. Let me ask, I guess I'll ask Campbell this as an HBCU historian, right? Does this early success put pressure on coaches where they are measured against their own first year performance to where they're not really looking at that it's a second year program? They're looking at that you won a championship, a title in your first year, and you're looking to improve on that.
Well, I'm going to look at it, and I want to hear Coach's opinion on this. All things are not the same, even though they look the same. And I'm going to use Terrence Graves. You look at, they did win the West, but we know in our heart and minds, it was 3 games they probably should have lost last year. You did not see the progression of the team getting better. You saw wins, and again, a win is a win, but I'm talking about where you every week you see that team getting a little bit better, a little bit better. You saw actually, on the other hand, of the games that Southern won is because of bad coaching decisions. I'm being honest. We're not going to name the coaches, but they know who they are. If they had made the correct decision at the correct time, Southern would have lost 3 more games last year. Same thing with Bubba. Bubba, that Prairie View team, if you look at Coach Jack and Bubba, it was like they were good, but you didn't see the progress. And then what happened is you can't hide certain things. You can't hide after a while. Then the truth comes out. Because what happens is consistency. When you build from the first year, that's when you move. I didn't see anything when Bubba came in from the first year and said, you know what, they're going to go back and they're going to be better next year. And I definitely didn't see anything with Southern. So what happened is what really, if they came back to the water leveled. And really what they were is what they were now, not what they were in those championship years.
Well, let me say this. I have to be fair when I say this. Dooley kind of backed into his championship, meaning, if I'm not mistaken, that's the year that Andrew Body got hurt. If I'm not, is that correct? Right. So Dooley kind of backed into his. And I'll even say to a large degree, Bubba backed into his, right? But Terrence, on the other hand, he went 7-1 in conference that year. So he didn't, and I understand the 3 games he probably should have lost, but again, my question is, had he struggled his first year, won in the same fashion his second year, would he have gotten an opportunity to go into the 3rd year of his program?
Yeah, but listen to what you're saying, Rocky. It's a through line. Then the line is going up, what you just said, not going this way. See, that's just simple. If you just put it on a board, there's progression. That's what I'm saying. You can't regress. And my point of it is when you looked at it, you didn't see. Case in point, I give you 2 perfect examples. Alabama State fired their coach. Eddie Robinson comes in. You saw a progression. T.C. Taylor comes in his first year. 75, takes it. But then the next year, they go national champ. You saw the early progression that team was getting better early in that season. Before Jackson State played FAMU, right? Because we were undefeated and the company were undefeated. But you could see Jackson State steadily every week getting better. And you saw FAMU kind of every week not getting as good. And there was a through line, and they met. And they kept going that way. We kept going the other way. So that's kind of what happens here.
I'm gonna set it up in case anybody from Southern, anybody wants to give their thoughts on this. It seems like, Coach, we're going through an awful lot, and I'll ask both of you guys because you guys are lifers in the HBCU space.
Well,
it seems like we've been going through a lot of head coaches the last 5 years.
5, maybe 15. Because I know, for instance, my school, we don't sign 6 coaches since I left in 2010. 6.
Well, Rocky, I think somebody counted. I think they said, when you asked the question last night, I think somebody counted said it was 20 coaches.
In 5 years.
Yeah, I think somebody counted that.
Yeah. Because Southern's been through 4 already in 5 years.
Texas Southern been through me, Ramsey, Ashbury. I'm looking at him in my face. Dishman, McKinney, and one more. That's 6. Or was that 7?
Well, they haven't fired Dishman, so it's 6 fired, and they've hired 6.
Yeah.
Well, what I'm saying is,
so, Coach, that's 10 right there in a 15-year span, and that's just 2 schools.
And you have to look at Prairie View. Prairie View, after Willie Simmons, did they hire Eric Dooley, or was there a coach in between Eric Dooley and Willie Simmons?
I think Simmons. That's a good question. Maybe
no, Dooley was at Grambling, and there was a coach before Dooley. Because Dooley came. Well, let me see. Willie came in because they won back-to-back. 16, 17. Dooley became the coach at 18. So maybe Willie did leave. Yeah. Because
they say Simmons, right. Dooley, Bubba, and Jackson.
Yeah.
So that's 4 more. That's 18 in 3 schools.
And then UAPB has had their carousel of coaches.
Yeah. After Coleman, they've had only 3 coaches.
Coach, they've had 3 coaches since I've been watching SWAC. In 5 years, they've had 3.
Coleman stayed a long time. Coleman stayed 12 years.
And then Grambling's had 4, I believe. Well, you're talking Fobbs, Hugh Jackson, Mickey Joseph. So that's 3. That's 3. Then, of course, Alcorn has had 2. Mississippi Valley has had 3. Jackson State, believe it or not, Jackson State has had 2 during that time. You know, Coach, let me ask you guys this. Is this a historic period in the SWAC of coaching turnover? And what is kind of the culprit of why ADs, administrations, presidents, alumni, why they're so impatient with coaches?
Well, the question is what athletic directors are choosing the championship coaches? One told me off screen, I was speaking with some people, and they say that is it the committees who's picking the bad coaches, or is it the AD who's picking the bad coaches? I don't know, but I know this: anytime a committee gets involved in choosing the coach, 9 times out of 10 he gonna be the wrong coach.
Well, Coach, let me clear this because I had to explain this to Rocky. FAMU doesn't have a committee. That was a one-off. Every one of our coaches, the AD, has hired us. I want to clear that up. But Coach, you do know this, and let's be fair to this. There is formal committees, and then there's informal committees. Okay? There are very few, and I'm going to put Ashley Robinson to the side because Ashley Robinson is totally like the old school. But we're talking about the Walter Reeds and guys like that had firm iron hand control, that no matter what Walter Reed said, Jackson, that's who's going to be the coach.
Yeah.
But now you have guys, and again, there are coaches that you still do check in. There are people that you still check in with now. That you say, hey, I want to bring this guy in, socializing, because you just got to, because you got people that are sponsors, donating, and even some of the staff. But to your point, most times you don't have some official thing that FAMU went through this one time. And again, I'm not going to get too deep into that because I don't want to get off point. But overall, you still have where you say, okay, does this guy fit my program? Let me introduce him to the people that are the fundraisers, that are the supporters, right? The booster club.
Mm-hmm.
You still do that. You still get that check off. There's very few people, like I say, that are the Walter Reed. Now, Ashley Robinson, I'm sure, but even with Ashley Robinson, because I'm from, and I know, he still, because he's smart and he's a consensus builder, he still talked to people about Deion. He still talked to people about Deion. He did. And he wouldn't deny that, just to make sure that was a good fit. But people were going to back him no matter what he did. So you get that. Like I say, people only grant you patience when you earn patience.
What you actually telling me to, and the way I take it, and I apply it to coaches, head coaches, that's the difference between a winning head coach and a losing head coach. Is being able to stand up, when you're trying to get a certain player in the school and stuff, and you stand up and put your hat on the line or your back on the line and say, I need this guy to make this program work. That's the same thing with AD. The AD of Colorado talked about it a lot, about how he had to get Deion, the board to approve Deion, how Pitino up at St. John's, if you read that story about how he had his assistants to say, go out and help me find a coach, and they brought back 20 names, and he just looked at them names and like, no, St. John's is a basketball school. We need a championship coach. And he went and got Pitino and brought Pitino back. And all the stuff Pitino had on him, you know what I mean? So to me, it's the people who is willing to risk. The reward is bigger than the risk. Those are the guys that win. And if you look at our conference, you got to take Ashley Robinson and put him at the top. Even though I'm pretty sure he just didn't say, Deion, you in. I'm pretty sure he had to go and tell people why he wanted to. You know what I mean?
And he did. And that's smart.
And that's how you to me, when you in sports like that, man, it's almost, I ain't never been in the war, so I shouldn't use that analogy. But man, you got to believe in yourself. You got to make a decision and live with it and point the finger at yourself and not anything else. So and a lot of times too, you got to see where we are at a program. Who do we really need as a program? You know, speaking of FAMU, of course, it ain't no job open. Let me make sure I say that. Ain't no job open. FAMU is a perennial winning program. I don't think you should be looking for, if that wants to happen, a guy that's learning how to be a head coach. You know what I mean? It's different stages where your program's at that the person that you want to bring in there and get it going in the right direction.
You know, Coach, and I mentioned this to both of you guys earlier. The last 5 SWAC championships, the guy who gave those coaches their first coaching job have all been the same AD. I'll ask you guys, is that a stroke of luck by that AD, or does it display a level of competence that a lot of the other ADs don't possess?
Well, when you look at, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Bishop, I think T.C. Taylor is the only SWAC, besides Eddie Robinson, black college guy that's got a job. They came through.
Yeah, Raymond Woody, he went to Bethune though, didn't he?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think he went to Bethune. I think he's a Bethune graduate.
Down at
Bethune-Cookman.
No, he a Florida State guy. The head coach of Bethune. Check it out, Coach. I think he a Florida State guy.
I think he worked at Florida State.
Okay.
Well, let's use Coach Woody as an example. He had 2 unremarkable seasons at Bethune-Cookman, and in his 3rd year, he's taken his program to a place of respectability, at least, right? Light years away from where it was, right? There were people who wanted him out last year.
He got to finish up now. He lost to some schools he should have beat last year, like Clark.
Well,
he lost to Clark.
I understand that, Coach, but he's also in his 3rd year improved his program tremendously. Now they have some shortcomings in that program as well, but from where they were, 3 years ago to where they are now, I think they're considerably more respectable, in my opinion. What do you guys think?
Well, here's the thing. First of all, this is Raymond Woody's last year on that contract. So it didn't, and you guys saying this is Bethune-Cookman. Bethune-Cookman does not have money to fire people. So he was going to play this contract out no matter what. No matter what. So what has happened is he's got the guy. But see, this is the funny thing about it. He's got the back end of this schedule. That he's got to finish it out. Do I think they're going to keep him based off of where the schedule kind of plays out? I think he'll get another contract. But I tell you what, if he goes 0 for the rest of the season, then what?
Gentleman B. Field says, can we discuss on these ADs? I don't agree with Rocky's perspective. My perspective is only that Ashley Robinson has hired the last 5 championships have been won by coaches that he gave their first start as a head coach. That's a fact. He hired Deion Sanders, 2-time SWAC champion. He hired Willie Simmons, won a SWAC championship 2 years ago. And he hired T.C. Taylor a couple years ago, already won a SWAC championship and a national championship. All those men were given their first coaching gigs by Ashley Robinson.
And all of them was a chance, was a shot, except for Willie Simmons. He didn't know Deion would win and really didn't feel comfortable about T.C. Taylor. And that was his last job. Because remember, now T.C. Taylor went from the tight end coach to the offensive coordinator back to the tight end coach. So he did take a chance on that.
But see, this is the thing. I'm going to say, some people call it chance. I call it insight. And this is the thing about when you have insight, when you see something in somebody, because you got to understand something. Him and Coach O were the only people that were left over from the previous staff, Coach. So already Ashley Robinson said, I see this guy that's a JSU true blue guy that I think, because everybody knew Deion was not staying, it was either going to be 2 years or 4 years. That was the max. 4 years was the max for Deion, no matter what. Everybody knew that. So it wasn't no secret. So, but he was already making sure that this young brother was already in-house and he saw something. It's the same thing with Willie. He saw something.
Yeah, and you know, TC Taylor, he knew where the restroom was. Being an all-star there as well, being alumnus there helped as well, you know, and being the guy who he is, all that was a perfect fit. So that's a little difference of bringing somebody from the outside who's learning, you know, sitting in that seat for the first time. You know, that's tough.
Now this gentleman brings up
if you go back and look at Jackson State, and if you go back and look at Jackson State years from when I was in school, W.C. Gordon, then it was Coach Carson, then it was Coach Hughes. They all won. They won all the way up to the 2000s. Then they hired Coach Bell. They fell off. Then they hired Jackson. They fell off. Then they hired a guy from Mississippi. Then they hired Comegy, and then they started coming back up. So it's almost like when you hire guys in those type of programs that knows this conference, that's been around, they become successful. It's the ones that come from the outside.
Well, you know, again, my deal, Coach Cole, is, and I'll let you guys discuss this, is that people in the chat are sharing my sentiments. Why aren't the ADs held accountable for these hires that they're making? Some making multiple hires. Some hiring guys that, you know, may not have the experience. Why aren't ADs held accountable for these coaching failures?
Well, let me say this, and I want the Southern people to correct me if I'm wrong, because we got a lot of Southern people in here. Football ain't the only sport; it's the driver. Because correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Southern has won female basketball championships, SWAC baseball championships on this man. I think a men's basketball championship. So there are other things. And again, I don't know about the fundraising. You guys know better than that. I don't know what kind of fundraiser he is that. So sometimes you get a pass. And mind you, with that being said, Southern every other year has won the West. So it's not been Southern has been down, 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 down. It's been the inconsistency of the up and down. So that's what I'm saying for Roman Banks. So maybe when you look at the totality, I looked at, and I saw Southern kind of have the same setup as Florida. Well, Louisiana, they have a board of supervisors or thing I looked at, and the governor puts those in. And I'm pretty sure they might have looked at it and said, hey, overall, and I'm pretty sure Southern, I think, has a pretty good APR. Because Rocky, that means a lot too, as we know. So if you got the APR, you're winning championships, you're in that Commissioner's Cup race, and the whole thing is kind of not at the Southern level. They went soccer, bowling. So there you go, haven't won football. And then you're raising money. You kind of like, hey, that's why. It's overall what happened with Tiffany, where you got $1 million deficit, your credit card get cut off, and you really didn't hire none of these coaches to win a championship, then they let you go. That's the difference.
Well, okay. So I think to put Tiffany in this category, I think is a bit unfair for this regard. If it wasn't for Tiffany was collateral damage due to the $27 million donation that happened. She was collateral damage in that.
You think so?
Yes, that's what I believe. I believe
I tell you that ain't had nothing to do with it.
To me,
it was full faith and confidence because I know.
No, well, what I'm saying is, I believe if Dr. Robinson is still at the helm at FAMU, Tiffany's still at Florida A&M.
Okay, I can tell you. Well, we can move on. We don't want to get the ball.
No. I'm just saying you don't believe that's true.
What I'm saying, when you have $1 million deficit, that ain't gonna have you there. And that's what I'm saying about Roman Banks and the Ashley Robinsons and the AD Bryants and the AD Golfs. People don't understand. Hiring a coach is not the only thing ADs do. And let me tell you something. Rocky, me and Coach talked about this. Let me roll back something about an AD and the old school ADs. And Coach Cole, I don't understand it. Most of the ADs back in the old school, Coach, and you know this, and most of the great football coaches, basketball, you know what they were? Their majors were education. They were teachers by nature. So you know what happened? They were trained to be teachers. You know what being a teacher also trains you to do? Actually help you coach. Because, Coach, what is coaching? Is coaching not teaching?
Oh, yeah.
So now, Rocky, what you've had is when you had these guys, they were able to, most of these old school ADs actually played the sport. They played, but Roman Banks played basketball for Southern, if I'm correct.
I was gonna say most of them were football coaches.
Football,
I mean, let's face it. I mean, football is the face of all most athletes.
Hold on. I'm gonna bring you in because I want to explain this to Rocky. So when you had that, there was an understanding of what needed to be done from an athletic side. Okay, this is before the NCAA. Really, now all these ADs now, because of the level, and I'm talking about the red tape of rules that was not 30 years ago, 40 years ago, that you have to deal with. The biggest thing AD has to worry about, and Rocky, I showed you the staff. Majority of the staff had nothing to do with athletics. It had to do all with compliance, did it not? That's what has changed in the AD world. So when you go now, you're not looking for a guy that will be able to have the insight. Ashley Robinson, I believe, played basketball for Valley.
Yeah,
so he understands the mentality. So if you got a guy, it's very few guys like that. Because the other schools are saying, we got all this red tape. We need to hire somebody that understands compliance and fundraising and this and APR and all that. And a lot of that, they have no clue about athletics. And what you're seeing is, and when the athletic part comes at the forefront, they fail.
Hey, Coach, I wanted to step in here right quick and thank everybody for viewing this stream on the Off Script channel. We're about to suspend the stream on the Off Script channel, and you can always switch over and view it on the home of the HBCU Coaches Corner on the Rocky Miller channel. Thank you guys very much for viewing. I'll give you a minute to go ahead and switch over. Type 1 once you switched over, and I'll go ahead and suspend the stream on the Off Script channel. Thank you guys very much. Go ahead, Coach. We were talking. You were discussing that most of the old coaches were most of the older ADs were coaches, and that you mentioned that Ashley Robinson was also a athlete,
correct,
turned administrator. And is that some type of differential advantage you guys are trying to?
Well, I think so. And that's why now, Coach, I'm going to pass it to you. And that's what the setup is. Coach, why is that so important when you have a guy in that top seat that actually understands the athletic part? Because what does he do for you, Coach? If you got an AD that understands, say, like I said, a former football coach, and he hires you, how does that help you because he's the AD?
Well, the first, because he's been in the seat before and he knows what it takes to have a winning program. You know, the football program is the biggest venue of all the sports. It's the one that makes money. Does it make enough money to pay for all the sports? Sometimes and sometimes not. You know, when you talk to a lot of ADs, you know, they say we really don't make no money. You know what I mean? But that I just, you know, that I don't really buy all the way because they bringing in paper money. I know what they spend, but do they bring in more than they spend? Well, if you include housing and a scholarship, which we all know that's just paper money running through, you know what I mean, physically, then, you know, you got to go. What I hear from coaches mostly is that ADs, especially if they ain't played the game, they starve the football program. You know, they shorten the football career. I know coaches now, that actually have won, and they started the program. I've actually talked with coaches that didn't know if they were going to stay off campus or stay in a hotel on Friday night until Thursday. So, yeah, I think it's very, very important that a athletic director comes in and understand what it takes to run a good football program, what it takes to go out and find a leader who can lead a program.
So,
You know,
so Coach, let me point this out to you, and I have to give Bishop Campbell the reason for explaining it. The reason why I know this because he explained to me this today. A AD's job is so much more than just handling what happens on the field. There are issues. There's compliance. There's business. There's running the business operation as far as game day operations. Also fundraising. Right? That's a pretty huge job. And does being a coach give you the vast experience needed to be a fully functioning AD that can handle compliance, the entrepreneurial aspect of running essentially a business by running the athletic department, being also a compliance officer or in charge of compliance, right? And also being holding all coaches accountable for the academic performance of the students that are student athletes. Does a coach come in with all of those things part of their experience as a football coach, basketball coach, soccer coach?
yeah, you go ahead,
Whoever
Campbell.
wants to take that.
That's you, Coach. That's you.
Yeah, I mean, he has to know what he's going to play as coaches, what he's not going to play as coaches. He should know everything that goes on with starting any game, whether it's bowling to baseball to football, making sure things happen, making sure eligibility is on time. I mean, if you got football, you should be doing eligibility coming in May. Eligibility should be done by time summer school start, where the kids know what they got to take, and that's probably in every sport. AD need to know about ordering equipment and when to order the equipment. AD got to know about the academic part, but a smart AD would put people around him, and when I say people around him, coaches around him, to make sure he tell them his philosophy. I believe in academics. So guys, make sure your guys doing what you're supposed to do. The thing is sometimes is the job is so big that when at some schools you don't have enough ADs and it's just falling on one AD. You know what I mean? Now these days you got to be able to go out and hire a media team or with students on campus. One of the main things that an athletic director is supposed to do is raise money. Get out there in there and raise money with him and the president and him in the development department. If you can't raise money, if you can't raise your salary as an athletic director, something's wrong with that picture. You always got to create new and different avenues for your program, whether it's bowling, whether it's swimming, whatever. But you also got to know, even now, and I don't know if I've read I did read an article about now with all this collective and these scholarships and all that, it's going to hurt Title IX a little bit, and the way they spreading the money out. You know what I mean? So it's a lot that involves an athletic director. The old saying is, instead of taking 15 minutes or a day to hire a coach, instead of taking a week, you ain't got to worry about seeing your coach at 1-6 or 1-7 in the middle of the year. He always would have a winning season and move forward. After 3 years, I think you ought to give each coach at least 3 years to show some progress. And maybe now they're doing these 2-year contracts. I think maybe they need to do 3 with 2 as an option. You know what I mean? So to give a guy a chance, I just don't see a guy turning a program around in 2 years. And remember, we were talking about this, guys, early about all this pressure they was putting on Coach Graves, and we said that one because he won walking in the games last year, the favorite. You know, like man, we beat these because we supposed to. Every game was a nail biter. And we knew then, being at Southern, that, man, you know, like you said earlier, Coach Campbell, it was a lot of bad coaching. And when you look at the coaches, Rocky, all of them was in their first and second year. You know what I mean? It was a potluck. You know what I mean? It was who gonna win this week. It was a potluck.
Hey, Coach, I asked you a question that kind of got you sideways with some people on the Southern coaching staff. When I asked you, Coach, is Southern a good team or are they just the best of the worst? And you candidly answered the question. I have to say they're just the best of the worst. And you know, that hurt.
Talking about Terrence Graves personally as he was a bad coach. I never said Terrence Graves was a bad coach. I said where we were as a team.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Rocky. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No. And I think that, you know, we were simply saying based on the performance of the teams in the West, right?
Right.
There was no real championship level competitor in the West. And Terrence Graves was able to come in his first year and win the West really going away. In some really nail-biting games, no one was dominated or no win was convincingly. And to be frank with you guys, he got away a lot of half the schedule by the skin of his teeth. You know what I mean? I joked a number of times about it. He had a rabbit's foot or a monkey foot, you know, or something, because in very sticky situations, it always came up in Southern's favor. So,
and ain't it funny that Jermaine Jackson, who I told you guys he was going to win this conference way in August, that he comes in and win the conference?
Coach, we couldn't take you serious, Coach. That's your protege. That's your protege. Coach, you bought him a suit. You gave him you understand what I'm saying, Coach? That's like your son, Coach. That's just like when you tell somebody, my son is going to do something. That's how I saw you as. Now, again, you are right, Coach. You are right. Everything you saying is coming to fruition. You know, he didn't go to recess as a child, and so he don't play. And so everything is coming to fruition. But, Coach, I think your fondness of Coach Jack, you know, is part of the reason why you're so confident in what he can do. I honestly, if I'm wrong about that, I'll take that.
Yeah. No, Coach, I understand. I mean, you know, it hurts my cheeks because you know, me being a part of his success. It's all him though. Let me get one thing straight. You know, all I was a vessel for him to ride, to see what to do and how to do it, and he has taken it from there. I want to make sure him and his staff is doing a great and fabulous job. It has nothing to do with Johnnie Cole. But, you know, like I said about 3 weeks, once they beat Grambling, I said that was the team would threaten to beat them. You know, of course, they got a couple more teams, but the thing of it is that how he runs his program, number one, and me and you got a chance to see, Rocky, how AD Golf and him, the relationship that they have. I can't say enough about the relationship that him and AD Golf has. You know, if he's somewhere speaking, AD Golf there. If AD Golf speaking, he got him there. They on the same page, and I would really, really, really want to shoot a shout out to AD Golf at Prairie View. They gonna win, and they working on a indoor facility as we speak.
Let me ask you this, Cam. We know AD Golf and and Tremaine Jackson are in lockstep. The only other relationship that we know of that's kind of like that is TC Taylor and Ashley Robinson. Are there other relationships in the SWAC that you know that are similar to that? And how much is that part of the success of those programs?
Well, I think Eddie Robinson, his AD are in lockstep, obviously. I think that Paul Bryant and Sam Shade are building something that I think they're on the same page of what they want to accomplish. When you kind of look at that, so when you start saying these things, but see, again, you kind of look at the projection of these programs. You can see Alabama A&M moving in the right direction. Alabama State, hey, this is probably one of their best teams they've had since Eddie Robinson's been there. So when you kind of look at those, so those what you look. But Rock, I wanted to point out something about how much has changed in the AD's job. Because as Coach Cole said, you come, you hire a coach, you tell the kids to go to class and all that. But I don't think people really realize in 1990 is when they first started collecting graduation data. So there was no penalty for kids not graduate because at the PWIs, black students wouldn't even graduate. They were graduating less than 35%. Then 2003, APR came in. 2005, the graduate success rate came in. And now in 2011, they raised the APR. So these are things that the 80s back in the day didn't even have to deal with. They didn't have to deal with none of this. These are things that you have to know. The University of Georgia, even right now, doesn't even graduate 50% of their football players, black football players. They are last in the conference. So again, when you're saying, hey, go hire a coach, you can't hire a coach when these things, and mind you, these are financial penalties when you don't hit APR and graduation rates. These are penalties that you don't get practice time. These are penalties where you can't play in a bowl game, a playoff game. So these things can hit you in the bottom line. So you just can't say, let me now get a guy that knows athletics. You have got to address those things that I just named that weren't even here 40 years ago. Hell, some of them wasn't even here 20 years ago. But things have changed. So that's the reason why I wanted to point that out first. Now, and I think I answered your question about being in lockstep and things like that. So that's what I see. But I think it's so important that when we go out here, because, listen, guys, I'm going to say this again. The difference between the Coaches Corner and a lot of other people, fire this guy, do this, do that, hire this guy, whatever. Bro, there's business that you got to know before you open your mouth saying this stuff. Coach is a coach. I know ADs very well, recruited players. Rockets played football. So when you sit back and say these things, you got to understand something. Some things can't happen or some things have to happen a certain way because of the rules now. I can't go get a guy. I Coach Cole, now, and I'm just going to use you as a guinea pig point. Coach Cole can't be an AD right now. He doesn't know compliance or APR. He would have to already taken that class. You have to take a class with NCAA and get certified. Let's go and have that. I know this for a fact. So these are things.
Well, you got to take the. You got to take the. It's always a test every year. Coaches and AD, they got to take a test.
But I'm saying you didn't have to take that. That's what I'm saying. So now these things have now come that have now moved people to where now it's number crunching. And that's the sad thing that hurts us. And then we also know that these numbers that they put on us are unfair because we don't have the resources to sometimes fix some of this. So that's why I just want to put that out there.
All I can say, guys, on my success of all, I went to Lane College, 900 students, armpit, locker room looked like shit, football field halfway, one corner mud, coach's office, dirt, didn't have a space for the, you just got to have that vision. You got to walk in with that vision. I don't You know, when we walk in these places at Tennessee State, we didn't have balls, whistles, nothing. The locker room, we end up moving the locker room underneath, paying lockers. We created a locker underneath the damn stadium. You know, when I went to Texas Southern, the field house was tore down. They were talking about ready to tear it down. I was like, no, if y'all can't build me a football locker room and stuff like right now today, let's renovate that. I was able to sit down, use my civil engineering degree and design the locker room that they still in. Let's get that straight. Still in. So what am I saying? I ain't saying that to brag on myself, but I'm saying that when you come into these schools, HBCU schools, is somewhere anywhere, and you see and need and know what you need, it ain't no time for no excuse, because you take the job knowing what you walking into. If they don't have these things, or during your interview process you haven't asked them and you know what you're going into, stop making excuses. HBCU schools, some of them are in these positions is because they don't know no better. They don't know that you should have a media team now. They don't know now that you should, clean up the locker room and clean up the field. They don't know. Most of these presidents ain't never played football before. And now you got 90% of the athletic directors that now has never played football before. So they don't know what it takes to turn it around. You know what I'm saying? So I just believe in, man, give me am I your guy? Get out the way. I got it. I got it. I'm going to go get what I need to get. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think that we realize that sometimes when we hire people. You know what I mean? I don't think so.
Coach,
I've seen it over and over and over again.
Coach, let me ask, and either one of y'all can answer this question, because like I say, this is a learning experience for me. I hope a lot of you guys appreciate this education that I'm getting as much as I appreciate the education I'm getting. But when you talk about essentially the process of doing more with less, right? Earning a job where you realize on the outset you don't have all the tools that's required to be successful. You have to go in and create those tools. Do you think our best and brightest coaches elect to take a different path, as a different career path, and does that affect the quality of the coaches that ultimately end up being coaching in HBCUs?
Say that again now?
Okay, what I'm saying is, when you understand, Coach, you took jobs fully understanding that it was going to be an uphill battle, right? And you didn't just take those jobs, those head coaching jobs, understanding that. You took those position coaches job, understanding that. You took those coordinator jobs, understanding that, right?
Right.
So, do you think it affects the quality of coach that we end up with in HBCUs, considering any opportunity that's given, not any, but some opportunities that are given are those coaches will be coaching against insurmountable odds for some. They won't just be coaches. They'll be carpenters like you and LC were. You'll be designers like you were at TSU. You'll be responsible for compliance, and even though you're the head coach, and when it doesn't go right, you'll be blamed, right? Are our best and brightest black coaches choosing an easier path, right, that's available in PWI football because being an HBCU coach demands so much?
I would say you're correct. I mean, every guy wants to be and go to the Division 1A level. Of course, it's the money. The money is way more even as an assistant coach. We only have to talk about head coaches. As an assistant coach, you got assistant coaches making more than head coaches in the HBCU. That's why, to me, it's important for these ADs to make sure when they're choosing a coach that these coaches understand where their program is. You can't take a guy out of New York skyrise hotel, apartment or a house, and then put him down in a 1-bedroom down in the hood and say, okay, man, show me your talents. Even if you don't water a flower, it's gonna die. And he got flower talents. I can't say enough about a guy who took over at Texas Southern. Let me give you his background. He coached at Notre Dame. He went to school there. He coached at UNLV. He coached at LSU. He won a MAC championship. All right? He was out of coaching for 5 years. We take him and bring him down to this certain school because he won 15 games in 4 years. And you can't tell me that this guy wasn't no flower, that he didn't know no football. He knew football, but he didn't know all the other stuff that goes with it. Because when you bringing these guys down from these high rises and these big time neighborhoods, who they go hire? They don't know nobody. Or they don't know nobody that will take the low pay as an assistant coach. So I'm sitting up there with all the knowledge. I'm the smartest in the room, but I don't know that I got to tell the maintenance people, man, come on, man, clean my house up. I don't know I got to buy somebody in the compliance a bottle of whiskey for my eligibility sheet to be. These are all the things that you learn coming up through HBCUs. You know, you take a nickel and turn it to $1. That's why we, Campbell, we're so successful when we get out in the world. We go in looking, where I can fit in at. What I need to, you mean tell me they take the trash out? Oh man, that's all right. Let me do something else. And that's why we get these guys that come down to these schools. And not only do they lose, they expose all these bad issues about us. And so
let me say something to Adrian Crooks. I don't mean to step in here, Coach, but I'm gonna let Adrian Crooks know that this is a football show. Any band talk should be directed at some other show. I know you guys only have one win, but we will not tolerate any band talk in our comments, right? When you're talking about the sonic boom and the jukebox and all that kind of stuff, this is a football-centric show. I'm sure there's a lot of band programming on YouTube, and we will no longer allow any band talk in the chat. Go ahead, Coach.
Yeah. So anyway, that's why it's important, man, to get a guy that's been through, he already know what he's getting himself into. And we got a lot of great coaches. We've in the last 10 years, Campbell, we put a lot of championship coaches on the shelf when they should be coaching. I keep saying that. When they should be coaching somewhere. You know what I mean? We got a lot of great young coaches who have came through this league that's sitting at high school jobs. And we continue to get guys from the outside, and they bring outside guys, and I gotta say it that way, man. And then they talk about the school, and we ain't got this, and we ain't got that. Well, you should have known that when you showed up. So that's HBCU to me, man. I really think it's also a great opportunity. And I guess the problem is we got 40 football schools, about 40 football schools. So that means we got 40 head jobs. And anytime that we go outside the HBCU realm, that number goes down, down, down. Of course, the killing side about the coordinator spot is some of our coordinators don't look like us. You know what I'm saying? So they come in and take those spots. They take the highest paid job on the salary, and they take those spots. So that makes it push it down some more. So I just think that ADs should take time and really look at who really can get these programs going in the right direction. Because at one time, Bishop, you appreciate that. It was great coaches down at every school, and it was some competition every week. It was Jackson State and Alabama State every week, that we played.
Yeah. I just think that sometimes when I applaud you guys HBCU coaches for being able to do more with less. And as a proving or a training ground, I'm sure it provides a certain level of competence or ingenuity that other coaches at other levels may not have, right? But I think like I say, me and Mr. Campbell had a conversation earlier today, and he said, no matter how great you were in Houston Markham's time and Archie Cooley's time and Eddie Robinson's time, you weren't going to get an opportunity on the other side. And your only option was to coach in HBCUs. Fortunately, times have changed. And we have bright, brilliant, very competent coaches and young men who are pursuing the coaching as a profession. And my question is, as HBCUs, why do we make the job exponentially more harder than other jobs when we absolutely need our young men, our men in the positions at our institutions to be successful? We should make it as accommodating as possible, and I think that requires a level of investment. But what I see a lot of times, Campbell, and I'm just being perfectly honest, I see more often that there is neglect rather than investment. Am I looking at the wrong things?
Well, I think Copilot is making some points about what SWAC pay versus what other conferences pay. And I think that's a legitimate argument. I'm not going to disrespect that argument. But what I will tell you, and I think I told, who was this I was telling this to? Coach Cole, that was Rocky. White people have the benefit to take jobs that pay less because they end up making more. You'll see these guys, and we've seen these coaches. You look at some of these great coaches and where they started at. Very, very low-level colleges. But they know because they got the hookup, they got the friend, daddy was there, and they know somebody, and they move up, they move up, they move up. So we get caught in the catch-22 to Copilot's point, are we overpaying people and they're not producing results? Or then do we have to pay people a little bit more because there's so many other options? Because if you, like Willie Simmons is a perfect example of you couldn't keep him. FAMU people were ready to pay Willie Simmons $500,000.
It'll be $1 million next week.
Huh? What'd you say?
I said it'll be $1 million next week. But go ahead.
Hey, listen. We ain't got that. But the point of it is, if you're a Willie Simmons, what are you supposed to do? Jerry Mack, like they just said. What is Jerry Mack supposed to do? He's coaching at Carousel. He's an HBCU guy.
Yeah, he came from Rice on to Kennesaw.
So when you start looking at that, no, it wouldn't have been foolish because Willie would have made that money. So that's the thing about it. When you go to Celebration Bowls, you make money. That's why people pay coaches. You go to Celebration Bowl and host a championship game, that's worth almost $2 million. So actually, that's called investment.
Yeah.
And then he said, really increase the family enrollment. See, stop talking about stuff you don't know. Florida State and Florida caps our enrollment. We could have 20,000 people. See, I keep telling y'all, stay in your lane, Stephen A. Stay in your lane. So back to the point, Coach, with this is that you got guys that you got to find, and I'm going to keep saying this, you got to find the diamonds in the rough. But the next young black guy, okay, Rocky, I told you this.
But let me say this, though. In HBCU, we pay more money than the Lone Star Conference. We pay more money than Division I FCS, 1AA FCS. We find, we pay good.
Right. But what I'm saying is you got some of those coaches that'll take a job because they're already thinking ahead. I think we have to pay more to keep the guys we got. Now, does it pay off? I'm not going to say that because I think some of the people are overpaid. Because, again, overpayment, all the time people say you overpaid when you lose. Have you ever noticed that?
Well, here's my concern. I think a couple years ago, when Dooley was fired, we got I think a unauthorized listing of the coaches pool and what they were making. We had men who were in their 50s and 60s making 40, 50, some even $30,000 a year to be coaches at the college level under a head coach that was making, I think, $400,000 a year. Yeah. I think we have to do him. I mean, I don't know about you, Campbell, but how can you put together a competent staff when you're making 400 and then your assistants are making somewhat under $100,000?
Who's making 400? There's nobody SWAC making that. Who's making 400?
Wasn't Dooley making that?
No, I think
Dooley was making. No, he got a payout of 400 because of the years. Dooley wasn't making up $400,000.
No, Dooley wasn't. Nobody was making full.
No, nobody's making that. Mike Vick might be making that.
I think you might be talking about my man at Tennessee State.
Oh, Dooley was making 310. Crook, is that what he was making? 310. So he was making 310, and every other coach was making under $100,000 on his staff.
Yeah.
Is that a appropriate distribution of the coaching?
Well, let me ask you a question. You have a job, right?
But currently I'm not getting paid for it. But we'll talk about that.
Well, okay. Well, that's your business.
Yeah. Because of our current situation of our government, I have to work and not get paid. My bad.
So should Dooley have taken $200,000 and spread it out?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna say it right about man.
When I took the job over at Texas Southern, I told the people what I needed in my. I needed a secretary. I needed a operations person. I want a new strength. I want my own strength coach, and of course my salary for my coaches. And so we went through that, and I took a cut to make sure I had what I needed around me, because I figured if we could win, I could get that back. But then I also took a cut of the 1AA games, the big games that we played, the money games that we played, to make up for what I was able to give away. So I think that was a big disparity when I heard about Southern and what Dooley was making. According to what his assistant, I think his coordinator was making $60,000, something like that. And he making $320. Yeah, that's a great disparity.
He got all the money.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, man. I wanted to invite Zoe and Zach if they had anything that they wanted to add to this conversation, because I know there are. Zach knows a lot about what's going on in coaching in FCS. Zoe knows everything that's going on with Jackson State, and if he don't know it, he'll make it up. And so, I'm just joking. Shout out to my man Zoe. But but I think this is I'm just surprised that with all this coaching turnover, ADs don't seem to be catching heat. Now, Roman Banks is catching heat. Let me say that. I know you Southern people have been giving Roman Banks the business for 3-4 years now. And he's still probably one of the highest paid ADs in HBCU. You know what I mean?
Don't he coach basketball too?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought he was a basketball coach at one time, right?
Yeah, he was.
Okay.
But okay, we got us a call here. So caller with the last 4, 6100, you're live on HBCU Coaches Corner. I guess you don't want to talk to us, huh? Can you hear us? Hold on, let me see. Hold on, man. Let me
I'm going to have to get you that old school push button phone.
man, you know, sometimes.
And just connect people on the three-way, bro. Just push both, man. Call Rocky on the phone. He gonna click you over on the three-way old school.
We got to take this one. We got to take this one. I got to get this one right. This is big time. We getting big time action here. Hold on. I get him right. Y'all go ahead, keep talking while I deal with
Let me
this.
ask you a question. With Rocky saying this, we don't have to start any names because we're gonna have a phone call. You've coached down there at Southern. You won championships at Southern. You know the people down there. What type of coach would be successful at Southern University?
Are you speaking to me?
You're the only coach on here.
Well, let's go back.
Hey, Rich, can you hear me?
All right, when Coach Washington was there, I think he came from a high school there. Then they switched over to Marino Cassim, coming from Alcorn. He was an athletic director there, and then he ended up taking it over, and he won. He did a pretty good job. Then they went and got Pete Richardson.
Can you hear now, Flood?
Pete Richardson had been at Winston-Salem up underneath Bill Hayes, and then they ended up giving him a job. He ended up winning a championship there. So when he went to Southern, he already knew the people really didn't want Pete there because the year before, Southern beat Pete them pretty bad. So then Pete comes. Of course, Pete knows a lot of people being an older coach. And I'm not saying that young or old, I'm not playing that card tonight. But he was able to bring in a good staff. And Pete won in 17 years. Pete had one losing season. So they need a guy that can come in, and they need some energy down there. They need some energy. I think they need a championship coach. Somebody has got a championship pedigree there that can come in there. They need somebody to be able to go out and sell the program. Understand the importance of the people around the program. You got to go out and meet these people, get these people back into the fold of Southern Jaguar football. There's Southern Prep Southern High School right down the street with Ashbury. They got great athletes. You know what I mean? You got great schools there in the Louisiana area. You got to be good at recruiting in Louisiana.
We hear your background, Flood. Can you mute your background?
You ready?
Yeah, I got him on it.
Yeah.
We hear your background, Flood. Can you mute your background?
I sure can.
All
Is
right.
that better?
Yeah. Can you hear us, Flood?
I can't hear you though, Rock.
You can't. Hold on. You can't hear me?
Well, he messing me up. I'm giving my pitch here.
I can't hear you, Rock. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can't. Hey, I'm gonna call you on a regular phone call. Let me see, can I get you through that way? I'm gonna call your number. All right.
This is right here, and Black hit this on it. I think this is one of the most interesting comments. And I just, so Southern people, when I saw Fred McNair step to the podium, what was you all thought process, or what did you feel when you saw it? I mean, I know he's the intern coach, probably, but so is Fred McNair your next Southern coach? That's people are excited about that.
Hey, what'd you say, Rock?
Hey, can you hear me now?
Hello?
Oh my goodness. Can you hear me now, Flood?
Yeah, I can hear you.
You can hear me. All right.
We can hear him.
But I want him to be able to hear you.
Yeah, I can. When you.
I don't know if you can hear me, but I couldn't hear what you were saying. I couldn't hear the show.
All right. Can you hear me now?
But I can hear you now on this call.
What about now? All right. I'm gonna send you a link, Flood.
Now I can't hear you again.
We can hear him clear as day right there, though, Rocky. Whatever you're doing.
We can hear him, Rocky. Just turn this.
All right. All right. I got you on speaker, Flood. Go ahead. I know you wanted to add something to the conversation, and I know you're an insider on the Southern side. This is Reggie Flood from the Jaguar Journal, Big Time Sports Show.
Inside the game.
Inside the game. So
tune in 6 o'clock, 6 to 7 on Mondays.
Absolutely. What you have for us, Rich?
Hello, Coach. How y'all doing? It's good to be here. Man, I was sitting there watching the show. You guys have an incredible show. I got to remind Coach, he left somebody out. He left out Gerald Campbell, man. It was
right.
Gerald Campbell was in between Coach Rich and Marino Chasm. It was Marino Chasm twice. It was Otis Washington, Marino Chasm, Gerald Campbell, and then Marino Chasm again, and then Gerald Campbell. I mean, and then Coach Rich, then Pete Richardson.
Charge it to my head.
Rich brought in the Rainbow Coalition, including yourself, with Cliff Yoshida and Mark Orlando and Fred Keiss and yourself.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. But yeah, man, we've gone through this, and Coach McNair's taken over as the interim. But I think for in terms of the long-term aspects of not just Southern, but HBCU coaching, and like Coach Cole said, the best minds in football used to be at HBCUs. And Rock, what you're saying about the expansion and our best minds going to other schools, I think some of that what plays a part in that now is it used to be our coaches came from HBCUs. Our high school coaches came from HBCUs. So it wasn't any kind of stigma. They were sending kids and sending young men to places where they had been, where there was a legacy. Now you have so many coaches. When we desegregated, it was like this rush, especially in the Deep South, to rush to the Confederate schools. That's what I call SEC schools, excuse me. But I call them Confederate schools because they all have some attachment to the Confederacy. But they all rush to the Confederate schools. And what we've seen as a result of that is now, even though we have African Americans coaching high school football across the country, a lot of them are PWI graduates. So we're seeing them send kids to PWIs. Even our HBCU coaches are, rather than become head coaches at HBCUs, they're willing to become lifetime position coaches at PWIs, in particular the mid-majors and major PWIs, because of the pay. Let's be real. And they're limited in their positions. There's a behind-the-scenes comment that I would always hear some coaches say, you know who the black coaches are in the SEC because they either coach defensive backs, wide receivers, running backs, or D-line.
Never quarterbacks, OCs, or linebackers, huh?
Now linebackers are barely on defensive coordinator. You're not gonna see, very seldom do you see those. And even when it is an African American guy who gets in those positions, it's usually a certain kind of African American guy, if you get my drift.
Yeah.
So those positions and the guys that we have to look at, it's hard to compete to go and say to a guy who is the defensive back coach or the wide receiver coach or the running backs coach who doesn't have the experience as a head coach. It's just the fact that he's the lead recruiter and he's coaching at a Power 5 school, but he's making $700,000 a year as a running back coach. As an HBCU, how do you go to that guy? And first of all, why are you even going to that guy? Because he's literally in a situation where he has everything at his disposal to be successful.
That was my point. Yes.
Yeah, whether he's African American or not, he literally has everything at his disposal to be successful as the running backs coach and lead recruiter. So that guy is not necessarily a good guy to come down, not just to HBCUs, to any FCS school, because the same problems that they have at Southern are some of the same problems they have at Nichols, some of the same problems they have at McNeese. You know, so that guy is not a guy who's used to not having resources. So he's not going to be prosperous in most cases wherever he goes. And especially if he doesn't have the experience necessary. And if he isn't willing to humble himself and come coach and gain that experience, that guy's not going to leave. How he's going to tell that pretty wife that he got, that he usually probably wouldn't get if he didn't make that money at a SEC school, how's he going to tell her, baby?
I said it.
We're going to take a $400,000 pay cut because I want to be a head coach and I'm going to take the job at Southern.
Hey, let me ask you this.
Can I piggyback off that for a minute?
Hey, yeah.
That was one of the things that during my career that when I was coming out.
Hold on. I was just putting where you can hear coach.
Can you hear me?
No, go ahead, coach. I'm going to make it where you can hear you.
The black coaches on those staffs were just assistant coaches. That ain't my personality. I wanted to come out and be a head coach. I had an opportunity to stay up on the Division I level. I coached at the University of Cincinnati, made more money as assistant coach than my brother's making as a head coach. But I wanted to be a head football coach. And the way I wanted to be it was at an HBCU school. Of course, now they're actually paying, as he said so gracefully, $600,000 to a position guy. So even that would have made me say, oh, no, hell no, let me stay. I also was meeting people like John Harbaugh and these guys that's on the pro level. So, yeah, I mean, what he's saying is so true. But also, you know, we talk Campbell and Rocky that we only got 40 positions and they're very few. So it's almost like when you become a head coach at one of those 40 HBCU schools and they get rid of you, your damn career is over. Because they're not really taking you up there. And then the guys down on in the 40 don't want to hire head coaches because they say, I don't want to hire my replacement. So we got to be careful about how we get rid of championship coaches in our conferences. So that's what I want to piggyback off of what he was saying.
Yeah, he said he agreed, coach. I mean, Rich.
Yeah, I agree. And I think what coach is saying, and I have to tell coach, they're not built like him. It's not a lot of guys out there now who are built the way he's built. Because I interact with, I covered the SEC. I've covered the NFL. There are not a lot of, I know some guys who are played in the SWAC, who coach and who are position coaches at some of these Power 5 schools, and they wouldn't dare. They would be insulted for you even asking them to come down and coach at a SWAC school, to coach at their alma maters. And they really don't understand, well, why can't Southern or why can't Grambling or why can't these schools have the same thing as the University of Florida? And I'm like, that's what, is that some kind of dream world? Do they take your brain when you move to the SEC? I get it that they live in such a world that they're so used to people catering to them. Because I'm telling you, it's a different world when you live in these, when you work in these societies. Literally, everything is catered to. Literally, imagine you don't have to do anything as a coach but coach football, recruit student athletes to come play football for you. That's all you have to do. And they say, oh, we're mentor of men and we care. Well, you can be a mentor when you don't have anything else to do. You don't necessarily even have to be a father figure to those kids. All you have to do is be a football guy.
I'll even say this, Reg, is that because I have friends that are close to Power 5 programs, they have other coaches that are not allowed to leave campus to perform their duties that provide that mentorship and that together.
Yes.
That, you know what I mean? Like, it's not so much their position coaches that provide that mentorship. It's those other coaches on the staff that aren't official that provide that. I'll just put, and they have all different kind of titles at that level.
To give people what they call them player development coaches, what is the label that they give them. They really just the caretakers, but they call them player development coaches. But I want to give people an idea, like when you're coaching at a Power 5 school, when like with Southern looking for a new coach, there's been a lot of people who on social media who are talking about, well, we should go and get this guy. He's a Southern Knight. He's coaching here. He's coaching there. Well, that guy is used to getting whatever. There's literally somebody who brings him an iPad that's loaded with game film, a loaded recruitment video of kids that they want. There's a director of football operations. There's a general manager who gives him a list and a video of these kids and say, hey, these are the kids you're going out to talk to. These are the kids you need to call. Look, here's your food at this time of day. We ordered your new car for you, and it'll be here this week. They are literally catered to in that manner. So if a guy is going to be catered to like that, do you really think he wants to come down? Even it's not just the HBCU thing; it's across the board on the FCS level, and particularly in the Deep South, that most of the smaller schools is going to be a big state school or two big state schools in some case, and it's going to be everybody else. And you're not going to make that kind of money, and you're not going to get catered to unless you are a coach on the come up or a coach that's headed down. And so those guys are going to stay there as long as they can, even though they know they'll never be the head coach at Auburn, they'll never be the head coach at LSU. But if I can make $650,000, $700,000 a year, and I can take care of my family, I'm going to do that for the next 20 years. And I'm going to live good. So I don't fault them for doing that. Don't get me wrong, I'm not faulting them for doing that. But I want our fan base and our people to be more realistic about what college football is and how we operate in this sphere of college football in terms of HBCUs. And another thing that people don't take into account, and particularly in the SWAC, is that most SWAC schools are state-run institutions. And therefore, you are playing at the political whim of the parties and the people who are in control of the state legislature and the state house. So you have to be aware of all of those things. You really do. And so like in Louisiana, we have 3 Division I schools, FBS schools, Louisiana Tech, ULL, and LSU. But we have 14 FCS schools in the state of Louisiana. 14 in the state of Louisiana. In the state with 4.5 million. So can you imagine what the recruiting battle is like for kids in Louisiana? Now, mind you, Southeastern, which is 30 miles from Baton Rouge, Southeastern, been a perennial playoff team in FCS, pay their coach about $100,000 less than his coach.
100,000 less?
Put that in $100,000 less. Wow. Imagine if Southern or Grambling, one of our coaches, $150,000.
Hold on. Let me jump in here. Let
that marinate for a while. Imagine if Southern said, we're looking for a coach, and our match is $150,000.
Hey,
go ahead, Mr. Campbell.
Flood, can you hear me?
He asked, can you hear him, Flood?
I can't hear, right?
All right, I'll put you back. Can you go ahead, Steve?
Hey, Flood, can you hear me?
Yeah, he can hear you.
Okay, I want to tie in something because I heard some things. Okay, so here's what people are saying. I'll just say some younger people. Well, why don't you just hire the guy down there in Southeast? They go to the playoffs. We're paying them more money. But explain to people, or in your opinion, because it's our opinion, why wouldn't a guy like him come to Southern? You just said they're paying more money, or a guy that's a 61-year-old white guy to come to Southern. He's making $75,000 less, or a 46-year-old white guy in Mercer who's making less. Why wouldn't those guys, since you guys are paying all this money, why wouldn't those guys come to Southern?
Because those guys are not coming to work at an HBCU. Number one, they don't view an HBCU as an opportunity to accelerate themselves. Number one. Number two is, let's just be real. This is still America. This is still America. And
now, wait a minute. I want you to run back something that I said. Now, hey, Ron, can you put it back so people can hear him? Because we can hear him real good. I don't know what you do.
All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I heard him.
No, but I'm talking about.
No, go ahead and tell them what this is. You said what this is. What is this for?
Because Floyd, you said something
this
important.
is still America.
Yeah, no. But before that, start over what you're talking about for them moving up and what they're thinking about. Start there, because that's so.
Oh, okay. He said start over. Tell them about what they're thinking about when they're moving up.
They're thinking this is a HBCU job is not going to propel them to the next level if they are a younger coach. They don't consider an HBCU job as the ability to propel them to the next level. So they are not considering HBCUs. And as an older coach, let's be real, this is America. No 50 or 60-year-old white guy is going to, even if it's more money, very seldom are they going to come to an HBCU to work over there. People look at Jay Hobson. Let me tell you something, and I'll be real and frank about it. Jay Hobson was a failed coach. That's why Jay Hobson ended up at Alcorn.
That's right.
Correct.
That's right. That's right. Let me say something too. Let me add something.
Hold on. I'm gonna shut up because I want to drill this in because I keep hearing this narrative, and we live in reality. See, I don't deal in non-reality, and this so what you're saying is, and we've seen these videos before, that a white man will take 100 and wait a minute. So Southern coaches making $250, right?
Yes.
And a white man will take $150,000 and will not take $100,000 and come work for a black person.
For the most part, yes. Unless he is in desperation's door. like I said about Jay Hobson. Jay Hobson was a failed coach. His brother was a state senator. He turned the Alcorn job down 2 or 3 times. And he was a failed coach who was out of coaching.
That's right.
And he turned the Alcorn job down 3 or 4 times.
That's right.
Alcorn's president, who happens to be a MAGA Republican, black MAGA Republican. He wasn't MAGA then, but he is, along with a lot of, that's another thing. That's a whole nother discussion about our college presidents who happen to be MAGA Republicans, but that's a whole nother discussion for another time. But because FAMU is not alone in that. I don't want to leave my brother standing out there. FAMU is not alone in that. A lot of them have been undercover for a long time. So I don't want to leave my brother alone in that one. That's been going on. But the president went back to him. He was good friends with the governor. His brother was a state senator. The president went back to him and they begged him and they made him promises. They went the weight room, they gave him things that they had never given any other coach at Alcorn. Jay Hobson was able to get things at Alcorn that no other coach was able to get, from improvements to their locker rooms, improvements to their weight rooms, and recruiting budgets, car access to Nissan vehicles to drive on recruiting. He got access to things that no other coach, including Marino Chasm, Coach Jones, none of those other coaches had access to. So Jay Hobson didn't have a choice but to win at Alcorn. And the crazy thing about it, I want to give you a comparison. Jay Hobson won 1 championship at Alcorn. During that same period of time, Broderick Fobbs won 4 championships at Grambling, but Jay Hobson got the job at Southern Mississippi. Broderick Fobbs kicked Jay Hobson's ass all over the field, but Jay Hobson got the call to Southern Mississippi, and Broderick Fobbs was still at Grambling.
And that happens.
I just want to let that marinate.
Well, and one of the big things too is what you say that this is what HBCU can control. We can make playing football important at our schools. What I mean by that, making sure the compliance is ready on time, making sure the bus is ready on time. Just forward thinking, you can make HBCUs a lot better than it is. Make it important. Not when the kids show up in the dorm ain't clean and ready for the football players to come in. Not where the food ain't ready. Not taking kids off the field in the first and second week because you ain't done compliance yet. That's what my man here is talking about, Mr. Flood is talking about as well, that what you have. We have some things that we can make better. And as a head coach, I shouldn't have to take that lead. Everywhere that me and my brother went, everywhere we've won, but we've never was hired by the AD that we came in with. Never. It was always a different AD and a different president. So when you come in and like Flood was talking about state and lecture and state of representatives and stuff that's happening in these doors, you got a guy we didn't hire this guy. This guy's winning. This guy's bringing too much attention to this school. So man, I know what you're talking about. That's when I look back on my career and I say, damn. Charge it to my heart and not my head. And that's what I got to tell myself. Charge it to my heart and not my head. Because my head would have said, stay at Division I-A football.
Yeah.
But that wasn't where my heart was. So I get you, man. I've been up there before. I know everything you said is true. And we just got to get better. I still say, Rocky, I remember when we used to talk all the time. And you always used to say what? Man, y'all, HBCU don't take football serious. And, man, I used to eat at me. But this man just made it so clear. Mr. Flood made it so clear, the difference. And it always don't have to take money. But you need it. Don't get me wrong. But, hey, I just wanted to piggyback off that and add that. Anything else?
I appreciate it. Before I go, Coach, and to speak to what you're saying, and I think this is something that in our community in particular, when you come up through HBCU communities, a lot of times we're taught in just in Black community period about college is, hey, you go to school, you get that degree, you get that job. And in a lot of times, in particular when our alums get to the point where they get well-to-do, where they can contribute back to the money, can contribute money back to the schools to help grow our programs, those alums don't look at football seriously. And it's ironic, I was having this discussion with the athletic administrator tonight that I was talking to, and he was saying he was having a discussion with a well-to-do alum who is very close to his family, and he was asking them for a substantial amount of money to help with some things with academics and nutrition. And that the guy basically told him, man, I don't care anything about athletics. I don't care. I want, if it's something to do with academics on campus or a program or something you can relate it to academics, then I'll be willing to help. But I don't care anything about football. And I think that's a difference in terms of our PWI, in terms of the larger PWIs, because the smaller PWIs, FCS, a lot of times are in the same situations we're in, and sometimes worse. But I think in terms of the larger PWIs, when you get all of those multi-millionaire or well-to-do guys who are boosters, you know what they want? They just want to have access to the cool kids. That's all they want. So they'll write a check for
clout. You mean they paying for clout?
Yes, that's what they want, clout. They'll write a check for $1 million to be able to say, hey, I helped my team. I helped my school win a championship, and they can put their arms around a potential NFL guy and have ties to him for a long time. See, our people who have the kind of money that we're talking, they will invest. They will put $1 million into an endowed chair at the School of Business or the School of or in the STEM program, but they're not going to invest $1 million for a locker room because they don't see the point in that. Our people who have those kinds of resources don't value athletics like that. And so that's one of the things that at HBCUs that we have to work on, that mentality. It's a difficult sell for an athletic director to go to their booster and say, can we get $500,000 from you because we want to put in a new training room or we want to put in a new nutrition table? And they're like, well, I'm giving $500,000 to the College of Business. I don't know what y'all doing over there in football or in athletics, but my money and my name going over to the College of Business because we still view, in a lot of cases, we still view athletics as just the game and not a business. And that's a hard pill for a lot of HBCUs to swallow. It's hard to grow the programs with that kind of attitude.
Let me say this though, and I think that's true, but I think we got to do a better job of bringing back our superstar players. One thing I know is people give money to people. They don't give money to buildings. And so if I got a relationship with you, then I can feel good about giving you my money. People don't give money to buildings. They give it to people. And that's why at these PWI schools, they bring these all-star back. They bring these guys back and have golf tournaments and invite them to different things where people can shake their hand and feel good about meeting these superstar guys. We don't do a good job of that in HBCUs, of bringing our players back for anything. That's why, when I talk about what's important as an AD, it's important to have a Hall of Fame and doing it the right way. It's important to have a golf classic to bring people back. That stuff is just as important as finding the best running back and the best quarterback that you can find. But we don't look at and picture it that way. We don't.
I agree with you, Coach. We do have to do a better job. And like I covered the University of Miami. One of the greatest things I ever saw was the University of Miami players would come back every year and work out at the facility at the University of Miami. That's where they would spend that's where their culture was cultivated by those players coming back. But one of the prerequisites to coming back, if you were an NFL guy, you had to come in with at least a 5-figure check to contribute back. It wasn't the university forcing them. It was the culture. It was the culture of Miami. Even though they didn't have great facilities, if you got all of these great NFL players working out in that little bitty humble weight room that they had at the time, but they're donating money back into the program, then that goes to the next generation and generation and generation. Right. So now you look at Miami and they built the facilities, but I think those are the type of things that we have to do. What I've found, Coach, is that a lot of times our stars come back expecting something from the university. And I talked about this tonight with some people. A lot of times our stars come back expecting things from the university as if the university owes them things, and instead of coming back, developing a partnership with the university to try to grow. And I don't know how we remedy that. I think that's going to be something that's something that I don't know if they experienced that at FAMU. But I know at several HBCUs, I've had this discussion with people where the former stars of the programs come back and they have this expectation that the university owes them something, and they don't necessarily come back. I don't know if it's the experience that they've had or whatever it is. I'm sure it's varying things, but they come back with the attitude that, hey, y'all owe me something or y'all should be.
Let me say this. Let me give you the remedy to that. The number one is that's why it's important that you hire graduates from your school. I'm not saying every guy on campus got it. especially when it comes to the athletic department. You got to hire people in your school so they know somebody that knows somebody. Number two, when you do get a winning coach in your, you gotta hang in there with them. If you turning over coaches every time, turning over coaches, then you also turning over alumni that liked that coach. Now they go in another set. You cannot establish a program if you don't hire your own. And I'm not saying that head coach, I'm talking about in the administration and in places that where people know people in the athletic department. So when people come back, they can identify with somebody. But if you got turnover like that, that's when you lose the small people that we have that's interested in giving back to the university.
Yeah, I agree, Coach, and I'll let y'all go after this, but I've seen that happen. I'll give you an example of being around Southern. I was there under Coach Otis Washington, the last of Otis Washington recruits. Remember, Coach Chasm was the AD. I knew, we all knew Coach Chasm. He was our guy. But when Coach Rich came in, Coach Rich took off and started winning games. He had his set of guys. We weren't necessarily welcome under Coach Rich's, as Coach Rich's guys came. Coach Rich stayed there for 17 years, so he had a long legacy of guys. Coach Odoms comes in a few years later. He has a good 8-year run. He has his guys. Now, his guys are in the working. They've a couple of them have gone to the NFL. I was having this conversation Saturday. Coach Graves and his guys come in. They're all Coach Rich guys. Now, Coach Odom's guys don't feel welcome in the program anymore because they aren't allowed to interact and be around the program. That goes back to what you say about not having people in the program who can build those bridges between coaches. Between those legacies.
As a coach, when you go in and take over a program, you never alienate the players from the coach. Matter of fact, you ask that coach to come back and talk to the players if he's around. I know some people say, "Man, that's crazy." No, it's about relationships. It's about building where you are, not starting all over every time a new coach come in. You go just like a race. You go from 1 to 2 to 3 and you finish up at 4. But you never can finish if you continue to get rid of the coach. And on that relay, you keep starting back at 1. So I get it, man. I get it. And I'm glad you came over and kind of shared the light on some of the issues and problems that we have at HBCU. I know it ain't always just money. I know money is important, but it's about relationships, man. It's about continuity. It's about communication. It's about making things important that's supposed to be important.
Yes, I agree with you, Coach. Hey, Rock, I appreciate you guys letting me join in, man. I could talk for hours about this kind of stuff. I could go on and on. But
hey, man, but we got to get on. We got to get on and on my podcast and we can chop it up some more, man. For sure. And you also welcome to be a guest on the show anytime you're available, man. So
just let me know when you want me on, man, and I'll definitely come on, and I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun, man. But yeah, there's so many things we could talk about, and we could get into. I think Southern is setting up to make a big hire to get this hire right. So we can talk about that too, man, because I think this is going to be interesting how this turns out. With Southern making their next hire as a football coach.
All right, man. I can't wait to chop it up with you, man. All right, thank you, man. Appreciate it, brother.
Hey, Rocky, let me, while you getting other people on, let me kind of give some balance of perspective. Coach, I'm going to go. I know Rocky's trying to we got people on the phone call. We want to get these people, and please call in, join the StreamYard. But I want to give some perspective because I sit in the space to see, and I hear this. Here's the difficult thing, Coach, where it is. Coach, as you know, I talk about fundraising all the time.
Yes, sir.
Our freshman class at FAMU all have said we're going to raise at least $100,000 for our school. Our class met that goal. Well, one of the things is we can allocate that money wherever we want. It's our money. It's restricted. But as a class, we had to make a choice because we had classmates and students that couldn't finish school because they didn't have $500, coach.
Wow.
Pay tuition. So do we say give the money to athletics, who I love, I love athletics, or do I give it to a student that becomes a Florida A&M graduate that comes back and give money? Now, that's part one. But here's the other part of it. My classmate's husband, because we talked about Tony Ezell, right? Remember I told you about Tony Ezell?
Oh, yeah.
This homecoming, Tony Ezell, our former quarterback, you know what he did? He gave $50,000 to athletics. You know why? Because he played football.
Yeah.
So he knew what it would took to get the football team back. This man cut a $50,000 check, and they ain't the first set of money. I think Tony's probably giving over $100,000 to buy him and his wife. Let me respect my girl LaVonda, my freshman sister. Their family has given probably almost $100,000. I give you that. Dr. Kinsley, he played in the band. They named the band hall off him. Well, he's raised millions of dollars for FAMU. So you know what? He donates money to the band. So what you have to do is also get people that have an association with athletics to bring them in. Because again, unfortunately, because we're so underfunded, the money can't get split all the time. So it's not that people don't care. I know a lot of people care about athletics, but I also care about students and want them to graduate and get through FAMU. So that's why you see a lot of this money. Because again, we're about to raise $500,000, coach. My classmates got it. They ain't even blinking. They're like, oh, we're going to raise it in 3 years. So you have to also, to the AD part, you have to be able to identify people that have an affinity for those certain, the former football players, these people are very successful too. And are you identifying them and bringing them in and say, can you get all the football players to raise money, former football players, all the basketball players to raise money, the baseball players? That's the thing about it. So I can speak on this because I do this I rack my brain. My friend, we've had Eli on it. He runs the NIL. My classmate, he put $40,000 of his own money in NIL.
Yeah, one thing about it though is true, and what you're saying is also true is, but when you winning in football, coach, everything goes up.
Yeah,
the enrollment, fundraising, it's just a natural thing. You already, Rock?
Yeah, we don't have any more callers, man.
Oh, I thought they said we had 2 callers waiting. I thought that was Sergeant said.
No, I don't. I shut down the. He gonna have to jump on via the. Yeah, because I shut down the conference line. I was having trouble with, so I cut it down. That's why.
Jump on this link.
Just hit the link, and we can have you just audio.
So that's what the thing is, So when you look at that, these are difficult things. And that's why everybody laughs about voting is not important. It doesn't matter and all that. And when you've been historically underfunded, like we have, Southeast Louisiana, I bet you ain't underfunded. But Flood just said it. That guy won't even take another $100,000 come coach at Southern. That is just crazy. Sergeant, you got to do the link because the phone line is not working.
Okay.
So these are things that's a challenge. But coach, this goes back to my point. We got to have people, and coach, and let me ask you a question. I know you guys have these Black Coaches Associations and things like that. And I understand the guys that are SEC, Big Ten, and come. But coach, they're not younger guys that say, hey man, I just want to get in there, and you don't identify these guys to maybe incubate them, a la TC Taylor, a la Willie Simmons, get them a chance and work them through the system.
Right. Oh no, they got a Black College Coaching Association that they I don't think they donate money per se, but they are.
I'm talking about hard coaches. I'm saying because if we can't get a guy, and I understand, I'm using Flood's guy. This guy is not going for Southeastern. Flood said Southern could call him right now. We're gonna give you 2 cents. He's not going to come. He ain't coming. Right.
He don't know the culture.
Well, he ain't coming because what Flood said. He ain't got to do it because he ain't coming because what Flood said. Let's be clear. He ain't got to do no culture.
Yeah.
He thinks
Right.
that's going to stop him from where he's trying to go, which I said earlier. But my thing is, what are we doing to build up our young coaches that whoever, black, white, green, or brown, that want to come coach at HBCU? That's what I'm saying. What are we doing?
Well, all I can tell you is what we haven't done. And, to be able to teach them and learn, and they learn from you. We just haven't, man. We just turned over these head coaches so fast and so many that, we stuck in this rut. Rob, what you got going?
I was just looking up some stuff to try to figure out how I can resolve. I'm gonna have to resolve this calling issue. I'm gonna get it resolved for next time we go live. We got a live tomorrow, so I'll get it resolved by tomorrow, man.
Okay,
For sure.
Sound good.
We didn't get a chance to go over the games. I want to go over the games tomorrow after we do Rick, or y'all want to go over them now right quick? It's up to y'all.
I guess we can do it. What we got? We can do it tomorrow.
Okay, cool.
We got Robert Kent coming on.
Oh man, Superman, huh?
Yeah, we need to, make sure I can get that flyer out.
I will. I'll get the fly out, Coach. Early in the morning, we'll get we have Robert Superman Kent from Jackson State coming on. A lot of you Jackson State historians. Well, he's a modern football player, ain't he, Mr. Campbell?
Yeah. He got back in the 80s. Kent is 90s, right, Coach? Late 90s?
Kent. Kent played in dang. Boy,
99, 2000.
Yeah, 98, 99,
yeah,
2000.
Late 90s. Now,
Yeah,
Coach, what do you think? Now, this is a question C7 just said. Do you think the HBCU colleges are still chasing the next Deion? And with that being said, I'll slide on. When you look at what success as of right now with Deshaun Jackson, do you think people are saying, wow, look at what Deshaun Jackson's doing at Delaware State? And now this thing is going to start back again, looking for the Deion effect because Deshaun Jackson's kind of have that glow around him?
Yeah, I like to see how it ends. I like to see how it ends. I think, like I told before, he got my eye. He had 6 open games, and 4 of those games were Division II pro teams that he played. So, we'll see. Hey, look, he got the big boy coming this week. He got North Carolina Central. So we really gonna get to see how good he is, and then we can do some talking.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Coach,
say this.
Now, it's unlikely that this will happen, Coach. But if he's able to upset a program like North Carolina Central, can he get your stamp of approval after that, Coach?
Coach, that's nail the coffin. That's a nail to coffin. Look, coffin closed, story over.
But Rocky, the thing about it is, but the question goes back to, and see, this is what I like about Deshaun Jackson. How many people see? I think what we do, we make this mistake. We think something's the same when it's really not. He had a great high school coach that had coached in college also, that knew how to run a program, that could assist him. He also had guys. When I hear Eugene Chung, that's his offensive line, Clinton Porters and things like that, he had guys that clearly wanted to go on this ride with him that he felt really, really comfortable with. So the question is not so much the name, it's the substance. What is the substance that you're going to bring? Because that, to me, has been the greatest thing that I've loved about Deshaun Jackson is the substance of the man, not the style of the man. I think that's the biggest thing.
I'll say this. Deshaun Jackson, obviously, to me, he's not a guy that can play football. He's a football guy. You know what I mean? That's what's obvious to me. And I think that gives you an advantage when you have the kind of profile he has, when you're a football guy and willing to put in the work that he's willing to put in. I think that gives you a advantage and has the vast network that he has, right? Mike Vick, up until this past weekend before the bye, I kind of doubted what was Mike Vick in 10 toes all the way in. He said something to me on the conference call. Not something to me, but he said something on a conference call. He said, "I don't play football. I play football." And what that let me know is that he's all in as well, and he's getting the hang of this coaching thing. But it's taken him a while, Coach, in this season to get his feet up under. Do you think that the lack of coaching experience led to, reason? I mean, obviously, I think that's led to why he's gotten a slow start. And he's had to let go of some guys. I'll just say this, Coach. What do you think the big difference in between Deshaun Jackson's start and Michael Vick's start?
I think Deshaun Jackson had a better idea of what he was getting himself into, had ideals. I think the people around Deshaun Jackson that's in his inner circle knows what they're doing and directing him the right way. I think Deshaun Jackson had an ideal of what he want to do as a head coach and how he want his team. He just wasn't taking a job, to me, because they were offering it. I think he took the job because he think he could do the job. I think Michael Vick took a job because it all sounded good. Everybody was pulling him. They actually almost practically begged him to take the job, and I just didn't think he had an ideal. I don't think he even wanted to be a head coach. You know what I mean? But I mean, you shoving me, you giving me everything, you paying me $400,000, and actually let me just come in and do whatever I want to do and say whatever I want to say.
Yeah, I can hear you.
And not hold me accountable. Then there you go.
Hey, we got a caller. His name is listed as Larry. I'm sure it's Mr. Sargent. You're live on HBCU Coaches Corner. Mr. Sargent, can you hear? I guess he fell off. Can y'all hear me? Go ahead. Look like I'm having.
Did he call in or hit the StreamYard link? Now you're muted, Rocky.
Y'all
Okay, I thought Rocky was trying to figure out. But Coach, one of the things, all right, so we've got this situation. Southern's fired their coach. Do you foresee, and we don't have to say any names, the same situation happen the next couple of weeks? If certain teams don't turn around, that you're gonna start seeing this now in this back half of the season?
I think so. I think there's discussions being talked right now. A lot of times that's what happened when one domino fall, they just start falling. And to be honest, when you look at it, some of it's legit. When you look at these teams and look at these records, you got to ask yourself, how can one man come in, never coached before, and win a championship? How another man can come in and every year he's improving his program, where I got a guy in place that the program is going backwards. So yeah, I believe that's going to happen.
Brother Rocky, there you go. Rocky, you're muted.
Brother Rocky, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. You're live on HBCU Coaches Corner, man.
All right, man. This is Mr. Sargent. First of all, Rocky, I was listening to you on Scotty's show the other day, and you made a rather astute observation. And I don't know if you brought that up because I just got on about half an hour ago. But one of the things that Rocky said to bring Coach and Uncle Campbell up to speed is that the SWAC as a conference and as the universities that participate in football have been burning through coaches at an alarming rate. And what Rocky did was he didn't say all of these coaches have been fired, but they have been fired and some have been terminated by not renewing their contract and others have left, AKA Willie Simmons. And the number, when we were kind of going through it, the number was approaching 24. I think it was 20 where Scotty stopped and, we started to have a conversation about it. But I wanted to bring that question to this group. And says, and really my question is in two parts. One is that a good number of coaches to be burning through as a conference? And then kind of where do we compare with other FCS conferences when we look at how many coaches a university or us as a whole, the 12 colleges as a whole, are burning through? And I guess my third question on that, and this is really easy, what does that say about kind of where we are as schools, as programs? And so I'll just throw that up to all three of you. And Rocky, if I can just say this one more time, that was an excellent question or observation that you brought up, brother. I just think that's the question of the year.
Yeah, I can't take all the credit. We have behind the scenes conversations between the three of us, and these are some of the conversations that we kind of have as we are trying to analyze what's going on in the conference and why these black men are essentially losing their jobs at a very high rate at black institutions. And so I'll let you guys kind of figure it out because you guys got the history and you guys know what.
Well, Rocky, let me say this. So look, this is interesting. I like the question, but I like to give a comparison. So I just quickly checked. So in the last 4 years, the SEC has had 15 coaching changes. They've had 15. So when you start to see it, the pressure for everybody from the top to the bottom is about people winning. And they're flipping these coaches just as quick. So I don't know if it's a SWAC thing. I don't have any data.
Can I ask this, Coach? The only thing I ask is this. And I don't know if you can know, but you can look. How many of them were championships, won the championship, and got let go?
Well, no, I'm not doing that. I'm using the span where Rocky kind of used, and basically the prime era, the prime era.
But for me, there are 16 teams in the SEC
right.
now.
It is 16, but those just came. This is to 2024. Texas and them weren't there. Okay. So that's what I'm saying. So even just add those. My point of it is you got 12, and it's still. It's not like that they got a bunch of people. So my point of it, this is a systemic thing that people are flipping coaches when you're not winning. I don't know if it's a SWAC. I'm always, unless I've done the research, I don't never like to say, well, we don't know what's doing it. And then you find out the same people doing the same thing. So that's the only reason why. You look at New England. New England fired Jared Mayo after 1 year.
Well, I guess Mr. Sargent asked a good question. What does it say about our conference, and is this a good thing?
I don't think it's.
Can you point the finger at anybody?
Wait, what now?
Can you point the finger at anybody? Why is this happening?
Well, I'm going to answer, and then, Coach, I'll let you answer. No, I don't think it's good because when you don't have continuity, you have chaos. When you're constantly starting, stopping, there's no progress, right? 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. So you're not building a program. So I'm going to use this again. What you're about to see, depending on what Alabama State does, you're going to see Jack State getting further and further ahead. Kind of like what's happening over there with Central. Central's getting further and further ahead from the because of continuity. Alabama State has been hanging right there. Now they finally got a quarterback. Are they going to be able to hang? FAMU had the continuity with Willie. We were just moving right ahead. Everybody else was transitioning. So you don't be able to build your program. At their coaching point, you can't get the money. You can't get the players. You can't get all these other things. Now, here you got Tremaine Jackson. And Tremaine Jackson made a great statement. Well, if baby, if you want to win a game, people want to look at it. But I'm hoping that Tremaine Jackson stays there because I've always said Prairie View could be a power. He's the type of guy that could be continuity and build that program and then pass it off to somebody. So I don't want him to go to UAB. I hope that he's a great coach and they pay him shit. He's gonna go. He can do all that talk he wants. So I give him $1 million. He's out.
Southern has hired 2 coaches in 4 years. Right?
Yep.
2 coaches, 4 years.
I thought it was 3.
Well, you count the intern. The intern don't count.
Okay.
But they will. It will be 4 years, 3 and 4 years as soon as they hire this new one.
Yeah, it will be 3, so you can really say 3. I know at Texas Southern, we've hired. Whew.
But y'all gave McKinney. I thought what y'all did for McKinney in hindsight, y'all gave him a complete runway to turn the program around.
Yeah, 12 win 12 games in 5 years. 12 games in 5 years.
So, Coach, what you say? You should have fired him after 2 years?
Whew. All I say is it's 12. Well, I would say we never should have hired him. Had no coach. Let me take that back. He was the head coach at Jack Yates High School. And that was it. He was a running back coach up on the college level. I just didn't see the match of what Texas Southern needed, and it was just what I said. But 3 games a year. Ain't that 3 games a year?
Not quite.
No, it was like 2.
Yeah, because he had 2. He was 0-3 or something, and then he was 0-11 in one season. Grambling have hired several in the last 5, 6, 7 years. And I say this is hurting the bottom line. What is the bottom line? The money, the alumni giving. You actually lose alumni when you get rid of a coach, especially a winning coach. You know what I mean? Or you keep a coach too long, you lose alumni. I don't know.
But let's be perfectly honest, Coach. In these past 5 years, the winning coaches have moved on to greener pastures, and the coaches that they're letting go are largely failed coaches.
So
you know what I mean?
You just said it's such a different perspective.
Yeah. When you talk about Deion and Willie, those are the guys that moved on. Everybody else was uncertain. What is that?
And TC Taylor's winning now.
Yeah. So what I'm saying simply is all the rest of the coaches were considered losers. There's no championship. The only other championship coach that was let go was Broderick Fobbs and Steve McNair. And you can look at both those programs now, and they're nowhere near a championship.
Yeah. And can you really, guys, can we really, I know we got to count it in the record book, but can we really count Dooley and Terrence Graves and Bubba McDowell's West championships really like, boom, man, we had it going on. You know what I mean? Because they all walked in there.
Hey, Coach, I'll ask you this. Are we gonna count Tremaine Jackson's, even though he's only beat the teams that he's beaten, or 1-8 in the conference?
That's a good question.
I would say yes. If he runs through the West and he's undefeated, that's not falling into the championship. That's stomping your way into the championship. Right?
Well,
that's different.
I think Terrence Graves went 7-1 in conference.
Yeah.
So my point is saying this. I think we got to give those men their flowers for accomplishing what they accomplished under whatever circumstances they accomplished. But we have to also know that they didn't win a championship, and we can also acknowledge that the West has not won a championship since I've been watching the SWAC, going back to 2020.
So damn, that's like an
2021,
Coach.
221.
You really saying what I was about to say. You just said it much better than me because I can't communicate real good sometimes when it comes to coaching this football. You basically said that somebody had to win it, and they were fortunate enough to win it. Ain't that what you said, Campbell?
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
but but Rocky, here's the thing.
And you're right, Rocky. I apologize.
No, Coach. I think it's a fair question, but we also gotta take into account that if you're gonna win the West, what are you gonna follow that up with? Can your program take that next step? And to much the chagrin of the alumni and the fans, those guys weren't able to take the next step, even though they got to the championship game. They made no progress the next year whatsoever. Right. And so and that's true. And we have to be fair. All of those seasons, including Bubba McDowell's second year after the SWAC championship, after the West title, was a failure. And because those were failed. Now, we could argue, did those men deserve to be fired? We could argue that. But we definitely have to acknowledge that those seasons after they won the West title, those teams regressed. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Rocky, again, thank you so much for entertaining that. Oh man, that was you know what? That could be a show. What you were talking about yesterday by itself. That was just so good. I was like, man, I'm sleepy, I'm tired, but I want to talk about this because it made my brain tingle. Because what are we doing firing black men? You know, that's one aspect of it. You know, how are we building up our programs with continuity? I mean, we literally had the gentleman on the call before talking about, you know, the culture in Miami was so strong that people were, from coach to coach, from AD to AD, or maybe they had the same AD the whole time, was forcing people to give back so they could keep their association, you know. But you can't have that kind of culture if you're going through ADs like we're doing at FAMU. We're burning through ADs faster than we're burning through coaches, or we're burning through coaches. Anyway, I'll get off and listen to you gentlemen, but thanks, Rocky. I appreciate you.
No, man. And I would go ahead.
Go ahead, finish his guy.
No, he's done. I was just gonna say that the University of Miami during those times was a player-ran, player-managed kind of situation. When you say during those times, Campbell, that the players, it was a culture that was.
Let me tell you, I know those guys very well. Andrew Swayze was a strength coach, and Swayze had those boys. And let me tell you something too. See, this is the thing, because I was down there. Here's the funny thing about that situation. It's very easy to come back to Miami, okay? So people are like, oh, you know, all these guys are coming back, Ed and all those guys are coming back and stuff. Clinton, bro, it's Miami. It's very easy. So Swayze had the program that he put together for them. Those guys would work out, and then they were on the beach at night. You see what I'm saying? It was the best of both worlds. So why am I going to go to a speed camp in Atlanta or down in Texas when I already got a crib down in Miami? I love being in Miami, and I can work out. So it kind of worked like that. So Swayze, Andrew Swayze, shout out my boy Swayze. I don't think Swayze is at Miami. I think he's at somewhere else now.
No, he's in Boulder.
Oh, Swayze. Oh, well, see, Deion knows. Yeah. Hey, Swayze, hey, listen. Swayze that dude, for real.
He's in Boulder.
Yeah. One of the things about those two guys, Terrence and Bubba, they were on the staff. They was on the previous staff. In both of those situations. Bubba took over for Simmons, right?
Dooley.
So after Simmons, they hired Dooley, and then Bubba took over for Dooley. And then Terrence Graves took over for Dooley. Oh wow. Man, they got something in common, huh? Man, I hate to say it. Wow. That's wild. You know what I'm saying? That's wild. But man, let's move to the next segment.
We want it.
We was gonna do it tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll do it tomorrow, Coach. It's late. We already got 2 hours in. Yeah. and we'll meet with Kent and we'll do it after.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, man. Y'all want to come back tomorrow because we'll do the interview with Robert Kent, and then we'll be able to debut breakdown big. What is it, Mr. Campbell? Coach Cole's big play breakdown.
Big play breakdown.
Okay.
Coach Cole.
Yes, sir.
The hobo, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Big. What does hobo stand for again, Coach?
High operated big offense.
Okay. All right. Hey guys, man, this has been another great show. I want to thank everybody for hanging on with us tonight. Even through the technical difficulties, I'm gonna get those things kind of ironed out here shortly. And but I don't have anything else, guys. Y'all can go ahead.
Yeah, I got one thing, Coach, that I'm gonna try to share real quick because I just want to talk about this because we talked about it. Let's see here. See if that comes up real quick. Is that pulling up? Did that show up? I'm trying to share that screen. Let's see. Did that share? There we go. So, Coach, I want to just talk about this real quick, and this goes back to what we talked about. So, Coach, this is some of our people.
It's still low. It's low on my end, but go ahead, talk to it. And
this is where at our homecoming convocation, where FAMU does a really great thing where our freshman classes have alumni reunions. And the challenge is, again, to raise $100,000. So we had 7 freshman classes this year to start on that journey. It's one of the freshman class, I think, hit $100,000 already. And then, shout out to the AKAs, shout out to the Deltas, shout out to the Campbell's raising money. But guys, in the end, we can do all this talking about what we don't have in our universities, what kind of facility we don't have. In the end, it comes down to this. So I'm going to challenge you guys. I know y'all like to go to homecoming and party and have a good time. But, man, bring a little change in your pocket. Give your school back some money. Show the school that you believe in what they're doing. Because in the end, this is how we change it. Because ain't nobody going to come save us. Not one person going to come save us. So I'm very proud of what Florida A&M does with the freshman classes. We're one of those freshman classes that done that. And I'm going to tell you, if you haven't done that at your school, get your freshman classes together. Start freshman class reunion. It's an easy way to raise money for your schools and really, Coach, a great way to support your school. So, Coach, I just wanted to show that. Shout out to the FAMU rallies, raising money, millions of dollars. Shout out to, again, my classmate giving $50,000. And I'm going to challenge all these people to watch the shows. Don't be talking about it, man. Be about it. That's all I got, Coach.
Man, boy, that's big time there, Coach, man. Y'all keeping that thing rolling over there. That's why they say. That's why they say you're a blue bread program. When you got alumni and you ain't got your businesses and stuff behind that. That's fantastic. You might need to get in the car and go to each school and show them how to get it done. That's big, man. My hand go off to Florida A&M and them Rattlers, boy. They like you say, they don't talk about it. They're about it.
We're about it.
Yeah. Well, shoot, man, it's a great show. Again, I can't say enough about our fans and we're increasing every day. Give a shout out to Scotty for giving us this lift, and now we're moving into that area where we can come on our own. I always want to thank the people around me. Can't say enough about my 2 partners, the Bishop Campbell, Rocky Miller. As I always say, man, we had 7 million people boycotting, trying to stand up, man, for what they believe in. I believe in that. This is our country. Hopefully that we can come together and pull all this together. The 7 million people marching, hope they can help pull everybody together, man. It's about the people. And at the end of the day, and like I said, if you're not doing well and you feel yourself not being in a good space, hang on to the rope. I'm not at the end, and hang on tight because, like I say, ain't nobody bad like you.